This video is brought to you by Guards 2 Chaos in Hell. Stick around at the end to find out more. As some of you may already know, I don't really watch movies, a position that I've found provokes incredulity in some, like I've just said I don't like living in a house, or having two arms. Surely movies are a staple of modern life, Yahtzee. It has long been an accepted social ritual to go to the cinema with a friend or romantic partner and put yourself in a situation where socializing is completely fucking impossible. I don't like the cinema experience. If I ever felt the need to be unable to do anything but pay attention to a film for 2 hours, I'd just sit really close to the TV. I have watched quite a few films in my time, some I might even say I enjoyed, but these days I find I feel no desire to watch any new ones. I think playing a new game a week for 16 years might have fucked me up. I've been spoiled by interactive storytelling. I get antsy having to watch things unfold without there being something I can do with my hands. Hell, I've been known to reach for my phone if a pre-rendered cutscene goes on too long. But this is something I've come to terms with about myself. I'm surrounded by culture and hype and memes referencing films, but I've managed to immunize myself against the FOMO. I haven't watched a Marvel movie since the first Guardians of the Galaxy, and at this point there's too much to catch up on, so why bother? I'm just going to assume that various individuals bent on taking over the universe were introduced, and then a bunch of conventionally attractive people basically sorted everything out. I'm a video games man, is what I am. There are only so many things you can try to be an expert in this complicated world, that I'm content with having no business with films, so I can focus on knowing things about video games. But then come the times when our worlds overlap, and it was after being subjected to a trailer for the Minecraft movie on a YouTube ad that I felt the need to put fingers to keyboard on this, because as someone fully entrenched in the video game camp, side-eyeing the treaties getting signed when the ambassadors from Movieland show up, all I'm seeing is continuing evidence of the disrespect video games still attract as a narrative medium. The video game movie adaptation started in the 90s with a wave of shit like Double Dragon, Street Fighter, and the live-action Mario movie with Bob Hoskins, and those films couldn't pay much respect to the subject matter because there wasn't much to respect. The games were bleep bloop pixel fun and light on story. The movie adaptations basically had to make themselves up from whole cloth. They were necessarily transformative. The films did a lot of building upon what were little more than crumbs of characters and visual identities. Same is true of the second wave of video game movies in the early 2000s that included Angelina Jolie's Tomb Raiders and the roller coaster that was Paul W.S. Anderson's Resident Evil series. Still transformative, because they were adapting something that had previously only existed in dodgy first-generation 3D, with limited capacity for complex storytelling and nuanced characterization. During this time, the live-action movie could still be seen as something on a higher level than the video game. But that dynamic changed when video games caught up with, and in my subjective view, surpassed, movies as a storytelling medium. Video games can look just as realistic as movies now, or at the very least realistic enough that the characters can display emotions and have cinematic moments. You could say Bob Hoskins was well cast as Mario because he was a stout dude with a moustache, and that's all Mario was, pixels-wise. You couldn't say the same for the casting of the Uncharted movie, because Nathan Drake was basically already a live-action, realistically proportioned human. We were never going to be able to look at Tom Holland and say, yep, that's Nathan Drake, because he doesn't look like him. He looks like someone who borrowed Nathan Drake's t-shirt. And yet, I'm still conscious of a prevailing attitude that adapting a video game to film is some kind of elevation of the material, like it's finally becoming something real. In the big leagues now, kid. But try to understand my feelings here. Imagine you have two buckets, and in one bucket you have cinematography and linear storytelling, jointly represented by a dog wearing a hat. And then in the other bucket, you have another dog in a hat, but you also have unique interactive narrative elements, exploration, branching paths, skill-based challenge, and catharsis, represented by a cat in high heels and a fox in a bomber jacket. I don't see how one could argue that the first bucket is better than the second, or how adapting the contents of the second to the first bucket could be considered the next step for it, as you'd have to murder the cat and the fox for a start. One could argue that only having cinematography and linear storytelling means films can focus on those better, and video games have to spread themselves a little thinner to include all the other stuff. But saying the first bucket is better because the dog in the hat has a better pedigree still doesn't scan as an argument because it's completely disregarding the cat and the fox. Now, I can't blanketly state that movies don't respect video games. Video games are old enough now that there are filmmakers familiar with them who want to pay appropriate tribute. So we have things like the Fallout series and Borderlands, which had its flaws, flaws, but lack of faithfulness to the games wasn't one of them. But then we have instances like the Minecraft movie, which doesn't reflect any respect for the subject matter beyond its status as a free IP bucket. I read an article on Total Film that Ronald D. Moore is working on a God of War Amazon show, but went on the record to state that he hadn't played the games or really understood video games at all. And people got a bit upset about that. Rightly so. Surely not understanding video games would disqualify someone from the job of adapting a video game, in the way you wouldn't hire someone who doesn't speak Japanese to translate a Japanese text. It's the dismissive attitude that irks me. Why do we assume knowing how to make a film qualifies someone to barge onto video game turf like they know what they're doing? Imagine if it was the other way around. Imagine if someone had been hired to make a video game adaptation of, say, Weekend at Bernie's, admitted to the press that they hadn't seen the film and had no plans to, but can't imagine it being that important. I think movies need to mind their fucking manners. What with video games making more money? To reiterate a point I made in a previous video, when games and movies partner up these days, I don't believe video games benefit much from the arrangement. I don't believe anyone who watched the recent Super Mario Bros. Movie didn't know about Super Mario Bros. Beforehand, so the games weren't getting much in the way of cross-promotion. Like I said, take this from the almost certainly biased perspective of a video game fan with no interest in movies whatsoever, but when I see video games and movies cozying up, I see a dynamic, young, wealthy tech professional marrying a washed-up old starlet whose looks have faded and who shows no apparent interest in their new spouse's feelings, hobbies, or personal history, and who seems to have taken out a rather worrying amount of life insurance.
This video is brought to you by Guards 2 Chaos in Hell, the upcoming turn-based tactics game with extremely simple rules but even more extremely deep mechanics. In order to survive the hordes of the underworld and face the devil himself, you'll need to choose a party of 4 fearless heroes. This includes a crossbow-wielding demon hunter, the brave and powerful warrior princess, and this absolutely delightful curmudgeon of an alchemist.
Oh, I hates it when monsters hit their balls over my fence.
I love him, and that's what he sounds like in my head. The unique battle system has you continually swapping your heroes from offensive front lines to the safety of the back, meaning that you'll always need to be planning one step ahead to
Get those monsters off my lawn!
Settle down, Alchemist. Over 160 missions to survive, 8 heroes, each with a deep upgradable tech tree, but only one crotchety old man. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to Steam, wishlist Guards 2 Chaos in Hell. Check out the free playable prologue today because you wouldn't want to disappoint this old codger, would you?